There's plenty of scenarios in Destiny 2 where you're wondering what weapons you should be using to maximize your damage and kill the boss as fast as you possibly can. So in today's video, I want to give all of you Solo Guardians 3 great DPS rotations that you can use on any boss inside of Destiny 2. This video is going to exactly cover what mods and what weapons you need to use. Now, when I say solo player, I don't mean you single-handedly in a raid by yourself trying to kill a boss. I mean as a Solo Guardian playing in groups, like doing an LFG raid or an LFG dungeon, or even playing solo in a lost sector. All three of these loadouts can be used in any situation and they're going to help you tremendously. So stick around right to the end so that you know exactly what you should be using and when to use it. But anyway, let's get straight into the video. So the first DPS rotation that every solo player should be able to master starts off with an Izanagi's Burden and a rocket launcher of your choosing. This is one of the most simple and effective DPS rotations that you can do as a solo player to help you do more damage in groups or even by yourself. When you're killing bosses, this loadout will do some of the highest damage out of all of the loadouts that you can use in Destiny 2. So for this loadout, the weapons that you will need is a Izanagi's Burden, the exotic sniper rifle in the kinetic slot, and a rocket launcher of your choosing as long as it has some sort of auto-loading holster perk or reconstruction. For me, I like to use the Apex Predator with reconstruction, and if you don't have one of these, your next best bet is the Hothead from Zavala, which you can go and buy right now with some engrams and try and get auto-loading holster on it. So now you've got your weapons, you need to know what mods you need to be running for maximum damage. So on your boots is where you're going to find your damage boosting mods. So depending on what element your rocket is that you're using, that will be the surge that you need to put on. So for me, I'm using the Apex Predator, which is a solar rocket launcher. So I will be putting 2 solar weapon surges on my boots. Let's say you're using a Hothead, you will put 2 arc surges on your boots because the Hothead is a arc weapon. If you're using the Bump in the Night, which is a stasis weapon, you would put 2 stasis surges on. So hopefully you get the drift from that. Now the third mod you need to put on your boots is a kinetic weapon surge, which will boost the damage of your Izanagi's Burden, which is obviously in your kinetic slot. So those 3 mods will boost the damage of your weapons, and the only other mods that you need to worry about is your chest piece armor before you rally the flag, before you do damage to the boss. So on your chest armor, you want to put on 3 reserves of whatever element your heavy rocket launcher is. So for me, it's a solar rocket launcher, so I put on 3 solar weapon reserves on my chest piece. So this works the same as before. So if you're using an arc rocket launcher, put on arc reserves. If you're using a stasis rocket launcher, put on stasis reserves, and so on and so forth. Now that you've got your 3 reserves mods on, you can now rally to the flag, which will give you 9 rockets in your inventory. From here, you can then switch those reserves mods back to whatever mods you were using before, whether that was damage resistance or whatever it is. You will keep those 9 rockets in your inventory. This is a very simple but effective trick that you can do every single time before a rally flag. Now, what I like to do to make this process even quicker is I have a spare legendary masterwork piece of chest armor that I constantly always have my reserves mod on so that I can switch to that chest piece, rally the flag, and then switch back to my main chest piece. It's a simple little trick. You don't have to do it. I just do it because I play a lot and it saves me a lot of time. One slight inconvenience with this reserves trick is that if you don't have those reserve mods on your chest piece and you die, you will lose those extra rockets that you got from rallying the flag. So just try not to die before the boss DPS phase. So anyway, you got your weapons, you got your mods. Let's jump straight into the DPS rotation once it's time to DPS the boss. So first things first, you want to hold reload on your Izanagi's Burden to load in 4 bullets for that 4 times honed edge bonus damage. So step 1, once you can damage the boss, is hit the boss with a 4 times honed edge with the Izanagi's Burden. Step 2 is to reload the Izanagi's Burden with another 4 times honed edge shot. Step 3, switch over to your rocket and unload all of your rockets into the boss. If you have a weapon perk on it that increases the magazine size, shoot all of your rockets so that the magazine is completely empty and it needs to be reloaded. So for me, because I have bait and switch on my rocket launcher, I needed to do a little bit of damage with my special weapon to proc bait and switch on the rocket launcher. So after step 1 and step 2, I shot my SMG to proc bait and switch before I switched to my heavy. Step 4 is switch back to Izanagi's Burden and unload another 4 times honed edge shot into the boss, and then you're going to want to reload the Izanagi's Burden and then switch to your rocket launcher and continue this rotation until either you're out of ammo or the boss phase cycle has ended. So the reason a auto-loading holster rocket launcher is required for this loadout is so that you can get the Izanagi's damage in between your rocket launcher automatically reloading while you have it tucked away. So the timing that it takes to switch to your Izanagi's burden, unload a shot, and then reload another honed edge shot, usually the auto-loading holster perk will have reloaded a bullet back into your rocket launcher. The timing can get a little bit tricky at times to get used to, but once you've gotten that timing down pat, it will be very simple and it will be just like second nature for when you switch between your weapons. So the next DPS rotation that I have for you guys is a bit more user-friendly, as it doesn't require you to use a sniper rifle and hit headshots. A few bosses in Destiny 2 jump around a lot, or they have a small crit spot, and it is simply just too hard to hit headshots. So this next DPS rotation takes advantage of a fusion rifle and a rocket launcher, which is just as effective. The best fusion rifle you can use for this loadout is the Merciless, a exotic solar fusion rifle. Now, just like the last loadout that we had, you want to put on another rocket launcher that has a auto-loading perk on it, like auto-loading holster or reconstruction. Now, like I said before, if you can match the fusion rifle and the rocket launcher's elements together, it's going to make this loadout even better, because you can get bonus reserves for both weapons, and you can also get bonus time from all of your surges. However, if you don't have a matching elemental rocket launcher, this isn't a big deal. It's just a bonus if you can get it. So if you do have a matching solar rocket launcher for this, just do the same thing as before with triple solar reserves on your chest piece and triple solar surges on your boots. So if you don't have a matching elemental rocket launcher to match the Merciless, i.e. solar, and you are using something like a hothead, just put on 2 arc reserves or stasis reserves or whatever rocket launcher you have on your chest piece, and put on 1 solar reserves. This will still give you 9 rockets, and it will give you a few extra shots in your fusion rifle. Now, as for the boots, because most of our damage is going to come from the fusion rifle, I recommend putting on 2 solar weapon surges and only 1 weapon surge for your rocket launcher. So once we've got the reserves on, once again, rally to the flag, and you are now ready for boss DPS. You can now switch back to your other chest piece with whatever mods you want on for the encounter. So it's now time to damage the boss. Step 1 is open your damage with a rocket launcher. So empty your rocket launcher into the boss. If you have overflow or anything that increases the magazine size, again, shoot all of your rockets at the boss. Step 2, switch over to your Merciless without reloading your rocket launcher, because it has that auto-loading perk on it, and then dump all of your Merciless ammo into the boss, reload the Merciless. Step 3, switch back to your rocket launcher, unload all of your rocket launcher ammo. Step 4, switch back to the Merciless, and continue doing this rotation over and over again until A, you run out of ammo, or B, the boss has ended its DPS phase. Now, the third and final DPS rotation that I'm going to recommend to you guys is one of my favorites. This one consists of the Wither Horde and a linear fusion rifle of your choosing. So for the weapons, obviously we're going to be using the Wither Horde in the kinetic slot, and whatever your go-to linear fusion rifle is in the heavy. For me, my go-to is the Cataclysmic, because it has an amazing perk like bait and switch. So just like all of the other loadouts, put on triple reserves on your chest piece before you rally to the flag, depending on what heavy linear fusion rifle you have. So for me, the Cataclysmic is solar, so I put on triple solar reserves on my chest piece. Now, a bonus step for this loadout is to also put on the backup mag mod on the specific linear fusion rifle you have. This will give you even more ammo before your DPS phase. Now, as for the weapon surges on the boots, once again, you want to put on 2 weapon surges for your heavy and 1 for your kinetic. So for me, that's 2 solar weapon surges and 1 kinetic weapon surge. So once again, you've rallied, and it is now time to damage the boss. Step 1, open your damage phase with the Wither Horde by sticking the boss. Now, I'm assuming you already have the catalyst for the Wither Horde, which will auto-reload the Wither Horde when it is put away. Step 2 is now switch to your linear fusion rifle and start unloading all of your ammo into the boss. Now for me, once again, I also have bait and switch on my linear fusion rifle, so between steps 1 and 2, I switch to my special weapon, do a little bit of damage so that I can then proc bait and switch on my heavy. So if you don't have bait and switch on your linear fusion rifle, don't worry about switching to your special, just go straight from Wither Horde to your linear fusion rifle. Step 3, once you've unloaded all of your linear fusion rifle ammo into the boss, reload your linear fusion rifle, and then switch back to the Wither Horde, and then restick the boss. From here, once again, just continue this cycle until A, you run out of ammo, or the boss DPS phase ends. So out of all 3 of these DPS loadouts that I've given you, it is up to you in which situation you think each one is going to be more effective. If you're versing a boss that has a large crit spot that is easy to hit and doesn't move a lot, something like the Izanagi's and a rocket is a go-to weapon loadout. However, if you're doing something like Root of Nightmares, where Nezarec jumps around a lot and it is almost impossible to hit his crit spot, something like the fusion rifle and the rocket launcher can be a better loadout to do more damage. And as for the Wither Horde and a linear fusion rifle, I like to use that loadout loadout when I'm versing a boss that is really far away, just like the final boss in the Ghost of the Deep dungeon. Now, the last factor that I want to add into all of these DPS rotations is depending on what super you're using as your class. So if you're playing something like a Warlock, obviously you're going to want to use your Well right at the start of the DPS phase. If you're using a super like the Arc Staff from the Hunter, obviously you want to use this right at the start of the DPS phase so that you can get the maximum amount of damage over time with the Arc Staff. However, if you're playing something like a Thunder Crash Titan, you want to try and time your super right for the end of the phase so that you can maximize your weapon damage and then maximize your super damage once you've run out of ammo or right before the damage phase ends. So this part is completely situational and it's up to you to determine when you should use your super. But anyway, Guardians, those are my 3 recommendations for all of you solo players out there for some great hot swapping DPS rotations for you guys to use, whether you're playing solo or if you're playing solo in a group like a raid or a dungeon. So thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate that. Feel free to drop a like and a subscribe and all of that good stuff, and let me know in the comments what your favorite DPS loadout is. But anyway, thank you for watching and I'll see you later.